Greetings. This is going to be a brief video that washes the fiction around the inflation narrative. And the reason for this video at this time is that in the next week or so, this false narrative of imminent hyperinflation is going to be cranked up even more because a couple of data releases are coming out. They're going to be portrayed in a very deceptive manner and choosing very convenient starting points that push an inflation narrative. Now, if you're smart enough to realize that a huge amount of money printing has not caused any aberrant inflation, and if you've watched some of the videos on this channel, you know that all of this is just a major marketing ploy designed to push things that sell when people fear inflation. Inflation sells. It gets people to buy gold so that insiders can dump gold. And it gets people to buy cryptocurrency as well. And I have said that average people have no business getting involved in cryptocurrency because they will simply be holding the bag from the current pump and dump scheme. But even on this channel, there was a commenter just a few days ago who said, "Well, I heard in the media that there's an uptick in inflation. What do we do? What do we do?" Again, there's two problems with that. Inflation is not bad. Deflation is worse. Inflation has to get much higher than what it currently is for it to start to be bad. And even then, deflation would be worse than that. Number two, money printing does not cause inflation unless it's done at a much higher level than it's being done at right now. Even though $11 trillion have been printed in the last 14 months during the coronavirus crisis, that is causing minimal to no inflationary upticks and certainly not aberrant inflation. And this is what we're going to look at over here, just so that you're prepared when you see this nonstop media narrative of inflation being imminent and a lot of people trying to claim that one should buy gold and silver, which is the worst possible thing you can do, inflation or not. So we go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. This is for the United States only. It's always better to take worldwide metrics, and we'll do that in the second part of this video. But this is what the US media looks at and pumps out, so we address this first. The CPI, Consumer Price Index, is the measure of US consumer inflation. And people say, well, it's problematic because it doesn't include food and energy. But no, there are two measures, one that includes food and energy and one that doesn't. This is the one that does. And this is the absolute index, and you see how it's just rising at a steady rate. Now, for something to compound, say 2% a year inflation, you would actually see a curve upwards. But the fact that it's a straight line shows that there isn't even any real significant structural inflation at all. The coronavirus crisis, early 2020, caused this dip in inflation, and now it's merely reverting back to the trend line of what it would have been had coronavirus not occurred. So look at the line from here to here where my cursor is. Don't listen to the media narrative that takes this convenient starting point to show a steeper rise in inflation. So this is the absolute index value. Now, if you want to take the year-over-year change, which is the only thing they talk about in the media, we go to the second chart. This is the trend line of annualized inflation. It was a little high in 2011 because the amount of technology in the world was not high enough to absorb even $75 billion a month of printing back then. But now, technology being a much larger portion of the economy and rising all the time, $400 billion a month is needed just to achieve even a lower level of inflation than this, and that is what is being printed right now. So $75 billion a month was too much in 2011, but even $400 billion a month is not too much for the entire world technological medium of 2021. So coronavirus brought us almost to zero, almost dipping into deflation, and therefore the year-over-year starting point shows this uptick just to compensate from that. But the average over the last 12 years, the age of QE, that's why I chose this duration, is still roughly around 2% a year, which is the ideal amount of inflation. Less than that would be problematic as well. More than that would be undesirable, but only when it got above 4% for a sustained period of time, not for like 1 month or something. Does that start to be considered a little bit high? So we have this happening right now, and the next month's release might slightly peak above 4%, and then I predict it'll come back down to 2% very quickly as well. So ignore all the media noise scaring people into buying cryptocurrencies and even worse, gold and silver. And this is the numerical representation in tabular form of the chart above. This is the annualized inflation rate of the prior 12 months. Yeah, now it's gone up to 4.2%, but that's because a year ago it was 0.3, 0.2%. I guarantee that by July, August, September, inflation will again be back into the normal band you see over the rest of the period over here. So tune out all the hyperinflation-based media narratives that are going to be bombarding you starting from Wednesday onwards or so. Now, as I said before, the US CPI is a limited metric. It is a metric only of the United States. It is not a worldwide metric. Commodities are priced worldwide. Gold, oil, etc. are all priced in the same price worldwide. Therefore, a worldwide metric of commodities is the more appropriate thing to look at. Fortunately, we have that. So let me go over to another chart. This is the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index from the official S&P Dow Jones Indices website. Now, this is the absolute value of the index, where my cursor is, and the green is the percentage gain over the period in question. So quarter to date, April 1st to present, it's 14.19%. That seems very high, hyperinflationary. Year to date, so from January 1st, 2021 to present, 30.35% seems very high. 1 year, 69%. It seems like this is really hyperinflation if you start from 1 year ago. But was 1 year ago the right starting point? Well, what if I take a 3-year chart? So the annualized metric, 3 years return is 4.29% a year annualized. 3-year return, still a little bit high, but then what if I take the 10-year return? Minus 2.67%. Commodity prices are lower than they were 10 years ago and lower by a lot. The annual return has been negative 2.67% a year. This includes oil, gold, natural gas, silver, anything you can think of in terms of commodities. And it has been declining. It has been in decline for 10 years. And 10 years is the age of QE. $30 trillion of money has been printed and commodity prices have gone down. And I've explained why across many videos in this channel. Technology always pushes the price of commodities lower, and the worldwide tectonic medium is now 3% of the world economy. Therefore, any upward spike in any commodity price rapidly increases the supply of that commodity or accelerates alternatives to that commodity. If oil gets high, then technology finds more supply of oil, such as hydraulic fracturing. Oil still is not above $70 a barrel, despite all this money printing. If gold starts to become high, then technology increases the supply of gold, and there's many technologies doing that right now. If oil becomes high even with fracking, then electrical vehicles accelerate faster and more people migrate over, destroying demand for oil. But the 10-year chart shows a decline in commodity prices. Again, this is a worldwide index. It's more comprehensive than the CPI and is showing the real truth of what is going on. Sure, the people who want to push the hyperinflation narrative are only going to look at this period over here, from this convenient low point, and how this is a steep rise. Yeah, it's a steep rise if you only look from here. It's not a steep rise if you look at the broader picture of 10 years. So don't believe any of the garbage that comes out about imminent hyperinflation. And a lot of PhD economists who don't understand technology and they cannot get past 1970s era thinking, they have predicted 100 of the last 0 bouts of hyperinflation. This is because PhD economists are so theoretical that they not only don't look at actual evidence for any of their supposed theories, but they've all memorized the same textbooks from the 1970s and they only speak to other economists. Therefore, they believe that they have explored the full consensus when they're only speaking to people who have read the same decades-old, outdated textbooks. Also, PhD economists are so theoretical that being wrong doesn't bother them, because the notion that what they think, whether it's right or wrong, has any real-world implications doesn't really matter. To them, it's really just a video game where if you get killed, you just reload the game and start again. That's why important economic policy decisions should not be in the hands of these theoretical eggheads. So there you have it. This is where to look to find out what inflation really is and whether it's high, and how you can look past all the headline level media narratives that portray the data in a very deceptive way. As I said, they choose the lowest point and then calculate inflation from there, but not over a rolling longer time frame. So there will be no hyperinflation. There will not even be any aberrant blip of high inflation more than a couple of months. And when it goes away, all the people who are screaming will be nowhere to be found, as always. I hope you found this video informative, and if you like this type of content, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much for watching.